Today I'm going to show you how to make winter squash soup. I've picked these two squashes to use in the soup, but you could use any squash you like. Any winter squash will do fine. This one has a French name, which I'm probably going to mangle, but it's a courge brodé galeux d'Essine, which means it's an embroidered scab from Dessine. Essine is a city in southern France. And as you can see, it has these, some people call it warts. At the farmer's market, they didn't even know the name of it. They just called it the wart pumpkin. This doesn't have very many warts, but it's also known as the peanut squash, as you can see. And this one is a curry squash. It's K-U-R-I. And this is popular around town, and the high-end restaurants are all advertising red curry squash soup. So I thought I would use that as well. So before I put it in the oven, I'm not going to cut it because it's too hard for me to cut these. I wouldn't even buy them if I have to cut it. But if you could cut it in half and scoop the seeds out, it's kind of easier to deal with it later on. But I'm not going to. So I don't want it exploding in the oven, so I'm going to poke holes in it to let the air out, to let the steam out. And well, I want to say, what's the difference between a squash and a pumpkin and a gourd? Well, a gourd is something you look at, a pumpkin is something you carve, and a squash is something you cook. So that's just generalities, but okay, that's going to be real good. Got in there into the center there so it won't explode. Okay, now I'm going to pour some water in this pan, and I'm going to put it in the oven at 400 degrees and bake it for an hour. I removed the squash from the oven and put it on the cooktop to cool. Once it was cool, I put it in the refrigerator overnight. My oven timer didn't work perfectly, so I don't know how long these cooked, but I do know I was worried about the curry squash being overcooked because it was so small in comparison to the larger squash, so I took the curry squash out much earlier. Now I'm going to cut the large squash. Look how easy it is, like cutting butter. So amazing. Now just cut the stem out here. Doesn't get much easier than that. Now I want to show you the difference in the meat of the two squashes. The curry squash has much less meat. It's mostly seeds. And you can see how much the other squash has in comparison. Now I wish I had put a little bit more water in the pan so it wouldn't be quite so difficult to clean. Now I'm going to scoop the seeds out. Just take a spoon and dig in there, and it's really easy to get them out, and you want to get the strings out too. Just get it nice and clean inside there. And next we're going to take the skin off of it, and it just peels right off. Very, very easy. I love this squash. I think I'll be cooking more of this squash. Hope it is not too easy to find, unfortunately, but it is an heirloom, so if you have a garden you can grow these year after year. And oh wow, look at this. Wow, it's my lucky day. Look at that, big piece came right off. Fantastic. Now there's little pieces that aren't cooperating too much, so I'm just going to scrape those off with a potato peeler. It's like the little pumpkin bits or the warts gave me a little bit of trouble here. Just check it over, see if I've missed any bits. Oops, a little piece right here. Okay, done. And now for the curry squash. I'm going to take the seeds out, and it
does feel a little bit harder than the other one. I think this did need to cook a little longer. I wish I hadn't taken it out so soon. But it's still pretty easy to get the seeds out and the strings. And now I need to peel it. It's not going to just peel like the other one. Ah! You're definitely going to get steamed. I'm going to peel this and put it in the steamer for about 20 minutes or so until it gets nice and soft. This is just too hard. I should have left it in the pot with the other one. Now I'm going to saute the onions. I used a whole jar of Thai red curry paste, a quarter of a cup of coconut oil, and then I chopped up 4 medium onions and a quarter of a cup of finely minced ginger. While the onions are sauteing and becoming nice and soft, I put the squash, half of the squash, into the pot because it won't all fit into my pot. If you have a bigger pot, you could put it all in. But I put 2 cans of coconut milk and 2 cups of water. And I'm going to put my secret ingredient, the broth. You see how gelatinous this is? It's just like Jello. So that will, you could use chicken broth instead of water if you like. Here are the onions. They're nice and mushy because we're going to just blend them up anyway. So I'm doing half these. So here I'm going to just put in about half into this here. Give or take. Then I zested 2 limes. And this is the 1 lime, zest of 1 lime. And I chopped up 8 green onions. And so this right here will be the 4 green onions. So I'm going to put those in there and let them cook for just a little bit. And now we mix this up. You can put it in your mixer if you want to mix it up, but I think this is a pretty easy way to do it. And I added a teaspoon of salt. Now you just ladle it out. It's a little lumpy. That's nice. I didn't want it. If you want it really smooth, you can put it in your blender, but I'm perfectly fine with this. And then we're going to decorate it a bit. Our 8 pounds of squash made 6 quarts of soup. Here's one that's already empty. We've already finished this one off. I learned about this recipe at the farmer's market in Tivoli Village at Las Vegas. There's a cooking demonstration there by Chef Steve, and he made this soup, and it was so delicious. I just had to try it. And if you want more of his recipes, he's at fresh52.com, and he called this one red curry squash soup. So you can see more of his recipes there. So once you get ready to serve the soup, we're going to fix it up a little bit. The lime juice is in here because you don't really want to cook the lime juice. The flavor disappears if you cook it, and it's an important ingredient here. It gives it some punch, but you don't want too much either. So I just put it in here, and I'm just going to give it a little shake. That looks perfect. About a quarter of a teaspoon, and now it will save in the refrigerator. I'm going to mix it up really well, just enough. And now I'm going to decorate the soup a little bit. These are the seeds from the squash. I soaked them in salt water and then dehydrated them. And I'm going to just put a few here on top for decoration. Maybe a few more here. Okay, and then I'm going to put some green onions on top. And there you go. It's lovely, lovely. Now I get to taste it. Mmm, mmm. Mmm, mmm, mmm. Mmm. This is so rich and so filling and so nutritious. I hope you'll try it. This is fantastic. Thank you, Chef Steve.